Zuma versus Zondo. An editorial, a tough editorial in the Financial Mail today says it's time for former President Jacob Zuma to go to jail as the country has moved on. The idea that Zuma is a spent force is also expressed by the organization Freedom Under Law. It says the former president is engaged in barefaced effrontery and his defiance is merely victimhood wrapped in populism. I want to discuss that now with the Chief Executive Officer of Freedom Under Law, Nicole Fritz. Good afternoon to you and welcome. And your position, much like that tough editorial in the FM today, would be that the former president has gone too far this time.
That's right. That in his flagrant defiance of the Commission, but also of the highest court in the land, the Constitutional Court, in his statement issued earlier this week that he does not intend appearing before the Commission, that he does go too far, and that the consequences must attach to his conduct now.
There seems to be a hardening of attitude as far as all of this is concerned. Explain to us how this might play out then. Could we see him being put into the back of a police van?
Well, we know that the Commission issued instructions yesterday that a second criminal complaint be filed against former President Zuma for his failure to appear at the Commission in January. That follows on the criminal complaint that was issued last year when he left the Commission without being excused. If he makes good on his threat not to appear before the Commission at the stipulated dates in February, there will be a further criminal complaint that can be laid. Those criminal complaints certainly should lead to investigation and prosecution, there may be then an imprisonment, a term of imprisonment that is the sanction imposed. Similarly, if he fails to appear before the Commission in February, there can be a charge laid in respect of contempt of court, his contempt in respect of the Constitutional Court's ruling, and there too, investigation, prosecution. I don't think that there's much to investigate here. It's pretty clear on the facts what has happened. But prosecution and then the sanction being one of imprisonment, possibly.
It would take some courage from prosecutors, surely, given past track records.
Yes, it will take courage, and certainly former President Zuma knows what he's doing. He's thrown down the gauntlet. He's inviting the constitutional crisis. But prosecutors and all of government is going to have to take into account that if this flagrant violation of the law is allowed to stand, that is going to shatter confidence by all of the public in the administration of justice and in the rule of law. If the former president is able to say, I am above the law, I am beyond its reach, it is going to be very hard to try and inculcate a culture of adherence to the law and obedience to the law by the average person. Because, of course, the sentiment is going to be, why should I adhere to the law when there is connivance at every level of government in allowing the former president to effectively violate the law in the way that...
And that's why so many political commentators are saying this has the potential for dangerous precedent.
Exactly. If this precedent is allowed to stand, if he is allowed to violate the law in the way that he threatens, and there be no sanction attending on that, that is the most terrible precedent for our constitutional democracy. Our constitution, as we know, is based on this principle of equality, that all are equal before the law. And here you will have the most unimaginable example that, in fact, there are some in our country who are not touched by the law, that they go free.
Nicole, I know you don't always like to stray out of your lane, which is law, but this is also beyond the law as well. Law is one thing, but there's a political dynamic to this. We know that the former president has political support. If mobilized, that could have serious consequences, albeit that this support does come from, as some say, a coalition of the wounded. Those optics are also important to consider, surely.
They are, and that's why I concede that it is going to take courage, not only on the part of prosecutors and the National Prosecuting Authority, but in respect of all branches of government, which the executive, in the legislature which are going to have to support the prosecuting authorities in going forward in this. But and you're entirely right to say it's not just a matter of law. Politics is infused here. But our politics has endorsed this notion of a constitutional democracy. So both the legitimacy of our political system and our legal system is dependent on the constitutional order and our constitutional democracy. You allow former President Zuma, to walk free without any criminal sanction for so obviously disobeying the law. And I think our constitutional democracy, the bedrock, is shattered. So I really, don't want to be alarmist, but really we are setting ourselves up here for a constitutional crisis.
And compounding that potential crisis, Nicole Fritz, is the Secretary General of the African National Congress, Ace Magashule, yesterday requesting the media to lay off Jacob Zuma and saying that we shouldn't worry too much about the Constitution. That's jaw-dropping.
It is, absolutely. As you say, the public's response to that must be to have their jaws drop, because it's, the ANC, not only as, the governing political party is required to uphold the Constitution, but we know the history of our constitutional democracy and the foundational role that the ANC played in fighting for the instantiation of our Constitution. And so for a leader of that party to say, no, we should just turn a blind eye, not concern ourselves with the fact that somebody who has enjoyed the highest office under our Constitution, enjoyed all the privileges it could bestow, now says, I am not bound by this law, I am immune from it, no sanction should attend on me. That all goes to the fact that we are not seeing the respect for the Constitution and our constitutional democracy that we should from the governing party. So not just from this former president, but from the governing party at the present time.
It is deeply concerning. From Freedom Under Law, Nicole Fritz, thank you very much indeed.